June 10th, 1816. Vermont. High summer. Temperature 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Farmers woke up to 5 inches of snow in June. Corn froze solid in the fields. Sheep died where they stood. Ice formed half an inch thick on water barrels. 1 month later, July 4th, Independence Day celebrations cancelled across New England. Not because of war, because of snow. Again. August, final harvest month. Last chance for survival. Frost killed everything. Total crop failure. Famine began in September. They called it the year without a summer. But here's what they don't tell you. The cold started before the volcano erupted. Official story says Mount Tambora in Indonesia blew up April 10th, 1815. Biggest volcanic eruption in recorded history. Ash clouds circled the globe, blocked sunlight. Temperatures dropped worldwide. Simple cause and effect. Natural disaster. Bad luck. Except, farmers in New England reported unusual cold in March 1815.
1 month before Tambora. Frost damaged early plantings. Almanac records show it. Temperature readings 5 to 8 degrees below normal. How does an eruption cause cold before it happens? British naval logs from the Atlantic show strange atmospheric phenomena starting January 1815, 3 months before Tambora. Reddish haze on the horizon. Ship captains noted it. Visibility dropped. Sunsets turned blood red. Chinese imperial records document unusual weather patterns in late 1814, 4 months before the eruption. Early winter, excessive cold, crop damage in southern provinces. Timeline doesn't fit. Something else was happening. And here's the part that should make you pause. Weather station records from 1815 mysteriously vanished from archives across Europe. Not lost, removed, deliberately. Someone took them. Why would anyone need to hide weather data from 1815? Think about it. Leave your theory in the comments.
Because the official explanation has holes you could drive a carriage through. Let's go back to what we know for certain. 1816. The world froze. Not metaphorically, literally. Switzerland, usually mild summers, snow fell in August. Alpine villages buried under 6 feet, livestock dead. Grain stores empty by October. People ate cats, dogs, horses, then bark, then grass. Germany recorded temperatures 15 degrees below normal throughout summer. Rivers froze in July. Crops failed completely. Bread riots in Munich. Soldiers fired on starving crowds. France, vineyards destroyed. Wine production dropped 80%. Grain harvest failed. Famine killed tens of thousands. Government grain reserves vanished. Black market prices increased 10 times normal. Ireland, already devastated from years of British occupation, typhus epidemic began. Weakened population couldn't survive the cold. Death toll, 65,000. Official number. Real number, probably double. North America, June snow from Canada to Virginia. Connecticut reported frost every month, including July and August. Crop failure rate, 90%. Corn wouldn't ripen. Wheat rotted in fields. One farmer's diary from Massachusetts, still preserved in Historical Society archives, describes walking through his fields in late June. Everything dead, blackened, frozen solid. He wrote, "The sun looks dim, like looking through dark glass. Cold penetrates to the bone, even at midday." That phrase, "the sun looks dim," hundreds of accounts mention it, from every continent, all describing the same thing.
Sun appeared smaller, weaker, colors muted, shadows less distinct. Lord Byron, stuck inside Swiss villa because of constant cold and rain, wrote a poem called Darkness, published 1816. Listen to this. I had a dream which was not all a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space, rayless and pathless.
And the icy earth swung blind and blackening in the moonless air. Not subtle. Mary Shelley, same villa, wrote Frankenstein. Story about a scientist who creates life, then loses control of his creation. Monster that destroys everything. Coincidence they both wrote apocalyptic works during the year without a summer? Or were they trying to tell us something? Now, here's where the official story starts to crack. Mount Tambora erupted April 10, 1815. Indonesian island of Sumbawa. Explosion heard 1,200 miles away. Loudest sound in recorded history until that point. 71,000 people died immediately. Pyroclastic flows, tsunamis, ashfall. Volcanic explosivity index, 7. Second highest rating. Only 5 eruptions that large in the last 10,000 years. Ejected 38 cubic miles of rock and ash into atmosphere. Ash column reached 28 miles high. Stratosphere, where it stays for years. Spreads globally. Blocks sunlight.
Standard scientific explanation, taught in every geology class. Case closed. But Tambora ash didn't reach North America until late summer 1815. Atmospheric circulation models show this clearly. Takes 4 to 6 months for stratospheric ash to disperse globally from Indonesia. Yet New England farmers reported problems in March 1815, before the ash arrived. British sailors reported atmospheric haze in January 1815, before the eruption even happened. Something else was already cooling the planet before Tambora blew. Scientists acknowledge this, quietly, in technical papers normal people never read. They call it pre-eruption climatic anomaly. Fancy term meaning, we don't know why it was already getting colder. Standard explanation, maybe another volcano erupted somewhere, maybe undersea, maybe in remote region. No records exist because no one lived there to record it. Convenient, no evidence. But also no way to disprove it. Unfalsifiable hypothesis. Except, ice core data from Greenland and Antarctica shows something strange. Chemical signature in ice layers from 1814 through 1816 doesn't match typical volcanic pattern. Sulfate deposits, main marker of volcanic eruptions, appear in wrong concentrations. Too spread out, too uniform. Volcanic eruptions create spike pattern. Sharp increase, then gradual decrease. Ice cores from this period show sustained elevation, flat line, like continuous emission over 3 years instead of single massive event. One eruption shouldn't do that. Multiple eruptions might. But we have no record of multiple major eruptions during this period. Only Tambora. So where did the sustained sulfate come from? Let me show you something they don't put in textbooks. Benjamin Franklin, yes, that Benjamin Franklin, wrote about unusual weather in 1784, 31 years before Tambora.
Described constant fog over all Europe and great part of North America. Summer of 1784 was unusually cold. Franklin hypothesized volcanic activity in Iceland caused it. Laki eruption. He was right. Laki erupted June 1783. Killed 25% of Iceland's population. Sulfur dioxide clouds spread across Europe. Crop failures. Famine. extreme winter of 1783 to 1784. But here's the interesting part. Franklin studied the atmospheric effects carefully, took measurements, recorded observations, published findings. His work became foundational for understanding volcanic impact on climate. After Franklin died in 1790, 25 years before Tambora, his atmospheric research notes disappeared from Philadelphia archives. Not all his papers, just the weather observations, the climate data, the volcanic impact studies. Gone. Official explanation, lost in a fire.
Except no fire damaged that section of the archive. Building records confirm this. Someone took them, specifically, selectively. Why would anyone steal Benjamin Franklin's weather notes? Unless those notes contained information someone didn't want public. Information about how to recognize artificial climate manipulation, perhaps. Stay with me here. 1815. Multiple governments acted strangely. British Parliament passed Emergency Grain Importation Acts in March 1815, 1 month before Tambora erupted. They ordered massive purchases of grain from Mediterranean region and America. Stockpiling. How did they know to do this before the volcano? Official records say they were responding to previous year's poor harvest. Prudent planning. But British grain stores were actually adequate in early 1815. No shortage existed yet. Multiple agricultural reports confirm this. Parliamentary debate transcripts show several MPs questioned the purchases as unnecessary. Yet government pushed through anyway, spent enormous sums, borrowed money, created debt. 1 month later, Tambora erupted. Coincidence? French government, despite being nearly bankrupt after Napoleonic Wars, purchased grain from Russia in February 1815, 2 months before eruption. Unusual transaction. France and Russia barely on speaking terms. Napoleon's invasion still fresh memory. But French officials negotiated the deal anyway, paid premium prices, arranged transport. American government established Strategic Grain Reserve System in January 1815. First time in U.S. history. No crisis existed. Economy was good. Harvests had been normal. Why suddenly create emergency food storage program? 3 major governments, 3 separate decisions, all involving emergency grain acquisition, all made before the volcano erupted. They knew. But how? Weather records. That's the key. Every major European observatory kept detailed daily weather observations. Temperature, Barometric pressure, cloud cover, wind direction, precipitation. Standard scientific practice since mid-1700s. Hundreds of years of data, carefully preserved. Except, records from 1814 through 1816 are incomplete. Multiple observatories, same pattern, pages missing, entire months gone. Paris Observatory, founded 1667, meticulous records for centuries. Gaps in 1815, January through March, completely absent. Royal Greenwich Observatory in London, similar problem. February 1815 records missing, just that month. Everything before and after intact. Uppsala Observatory in Sweden, March through May 1815, gone. This isn't normal archival loss. Books don't decay selectively. Fire doesn't burn specific date ranges. Someone removed these records deliberately. But one set survived. Private weather journal kept by German aristocrat named Heinrich Wilhelm Matthias Olbers. Astronomer, physician. Weather enthusiast.
lived in Bremen, kept daily observations for 50 years. His journals stayed in family possession, never went to government archive, never got culled. In 1973, his great-great-grandson donated them to Bremen State Archive. Researchers cataloged them, started examining the 1815 entries. Here's what Olbers recorded. January 3, 1815. Atmospheric pressure abnormally low. Barometer reading 28.4 inches. Sky shows unusual reddish tinge at sunset. Stars appear dimmer than normal. January 18th. Continuous haze. Sun appears veiled. Temperature 4 degrees below seasonal average. No precipitation to account for humidity. February 9th. Barometric pressure continues unstable. Fluctuations without corresponding weather changes. Sky color remains wrong. March 1st. Early morning observation shows atmospheric phenomenon. Luminous bands visible on eastern horizon before sunrise.
Colors: red, orange, greenish. Duration: 45 minutes. Never observed similar display.
March 21st. Temperature dropped 10 degrees overnight. No storm, no wind. Simply became colder. Spring plantings at risk. April 2nd. Received letter from colleague in Vienna reporting identical atmospheric observations. He asks if I know the cause. I do not. Olbers kept writing, day after day, recording things that didn't make meteorological sense. Then, April 10th, Tambora erupted, 4,000 miles away. Olbers didn't know about it. Information took months to travel in 1815, but his observations continued. April 23rd. Haze intensifies, visibility reduced. Sun appears as pale disk at noon. May 5th. Atmospheric conditions worsening. Barometer erratic. Temperature significantly below normal. Farmers report crop damage. He was documenting the effects before knowing the cause. Pure data, unbiased, unfiltered.
And his data shows the atmospheric problem started in January, 3 months before Tambora. Something was already wrong with the atmosphere. The volcano made it worse. Much worse. But it didn't start the problem. It amplified something already happening. Now we need to talk about the lights. Hundreds of accounts from 1814 and 1815 describe unusual lights in the sky. Not aurora borealis. These appeared at wrong latitudes, wrong times of year, wrong colors. Ship's log from HMS Britain, British naval vessel, Mediterranean Patrol, November 17, 1814. At 2000 hours observed luminous phenomenon bearing north-northeast. Appeared as vertical columns of greenish light. Extended from horizon to approximately 30 degrees elevation. Duration 1 hour 20 minutes. No aurora conditions present. Weather clear. Crew witnessed. Captain signed it. First officer countersigned. Entered official log. French merchant captain, sailing from Marseille to Algeria, reported similar lights December 1814. Described them as pillars of fire standing on the sea. Multiple crew witnesses. He thought it was supernatural. Prayed. Farmer in rural Pennsylvania. Diary entry from January 1815. Wrote about strange glow in northern sky lasting 3 nights. Not normal. Animals disturbed. Horses refused to leave barn. Chinese imperial records mention celestial anomalies throughout late 1814. Sky phenomena that troubled court astronomers. They interpreted it as a bad omen. Recommended emperor perform purification rituals. Dozens of accounts. Different continents, different cultures, all describing atmospheric light phenomena that shouldn't exist. Standard explanation: unusual aurora activity, solar storm period. Except, auroras don't appear in Mediterranean at mid-latitudes. Physics doesn't work that way.
Earth's magnetic field channels solar particles toward poles. You don't get aurora in southern France. But that's what people saw and reported. And government officials collected those reports, then archived them away where no one would connect the dots. One more thing before we dive deeper. The cold of 1816 caused famine. Famine caused migration. Migration caused something else. Disease. Typhus, cholera, dysentery. Weakened populations, crowded conditions, poor sanitation. Perfect conditions for epidemic. First cholera pandemic began 1817, Bengal region of India. Spread through Asia, reached Europe by 1823, killed millions. Official history says it was coincidence. Famine weakened people, disease followed, natural progression. But why did cholera, endemic to Ganges River Delta for centuries, suddenly go pandemic in 1817? Disease doesn't just decide to spread globally. Conditions have to change. What changed?
And why did it start exactly 1 year after the year without a summer?
Medical historians have theories. Climate stress, population movement, trade route disruptions, all plausible. But there's another possibility. What if the atmospheric event that caused the freezing also affected disease patterns? Ultraviolet radiation changes, atmospheric chemistry alterations, temperature extremes. These things impact bacterial and viral survival rates, and nobody in 1815 understood microbiology. Germ theory didn't exist yet. They thought disease came from bad air, miasma theory. So they wouldn't have been looking for connection between the atmospheric event and disease patterns. But what if someone was looking? What if someone deliberately studied this? Medical records from major European hospitals, 1815 through 1820, are incomplete. Not missing, incomplete. Specific diseases, specific symptoms, data pages removed. Someone curated those records.
Selected what to preserve and what to destroy. Why? What did those removed pages show? Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're a farmer in Vermont, June 18th, 1816. You wake up before dawn, need to check the fields. Hope yesterday's warmth helped the crops recover from last week's frost. You step outside. Immediately, you know something's wrong. Air is too cold. You can see your breath in mid-June. Sky looks strange. Sun hasn't risen yet, but eastern horizon should be getting lighter. It's not. Sky stays dark, purplish gray, thick. You walk toward your cornfield. Boots crunch on frozen ground. Grass white with frost, heavy frost, quarter-inch thick. The corn, 3 weeks old, knee-high, green yesterday, black today. Every plant, frozen solid. Leaves hang limp and dark. Touch one, it crumbles, brittle as paper. Your chest tightens. This was your food, your income, your family's survival. You look at neighboring fields, same thing. Everything dead. Sun finally rises. But it's wrong. Pale, weak. Like looking at it through dark glass. Casts almost no shadows. Sky around it stays grey. Temperature doesn't rise. 10 a.m., still below freezing. You walk back to the house. Wife is feeding the children. Last year's grain, running low, was supposed to last until new harvest. You tell her the corn is gone. She doesn't cry, just nods, jaw tight. Children too young to understand. They keep eating. You watch them. Try to calculate how long the stores will last. Maybe until August if you're careful, if you eat less, if the children eat less. You look out the window. Snow starts falling. In June. This is what they lived through. Thousands of farmers. Same story, same terror, and nobody could explain why. Government responses tell their own story. United States. Federal government offered no disaster relief. None. States were on their own. Individual towns organized what they could. But here's the strange part.
U.S. Army, small force at the time, received orders in May 1816 to establish emergency supply depots in interior territories. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, areas with almost no population yet. Why? Official explanation? Preparation for potential conflict with British Canada. War of 1812 still recent memory. Except, war was over. Treaty signed. Peace established. No threat existed. Yet armies spent enormous sums transporting grain and supplies to remote frontier forts, almost like they expected people to flee there. Expected refugees. How would they know they would be refugees before the crisis fully developed? Britain did something similar, established emergency food distribution centers in Ireland and Scotland in April 1816, before the worst cold hit. Officially, routine preparation for potential unrest. Reality, they knew something was coming.
Russian Empire, normally secretive about internal affairs, shared grain with neighboring countries in spring 1816. Uncharacteristic generosity. Russia, under Tsar Alexander, typically hoarded resources. Why the sudden charity? Unless Russian officials knew widespread famine was coming and wanted to maintain diplomatic relationships they'd need later. Ottoman Empire suspended grain exports in March 1816. Total ban. Locked down their food supply. Perfect timing. Almost like they had advance warning. 4 major empires, 4 separate decisions, all made before the crisis peaked. Coordinated or coincidence? There's a document stored in British Library, restricted access. You need special permission to view it, labeled Correspondence Regarding Atmospheric Conditions, Confidential, March 1815. It's a letter from British Ambassador in Vienna to Foreign Secretary in London, dated March 20th, 1815.
3 weeks before Tambora erupted. The letter describes meeting with Austrian scientific advisor to the emperor. Advisor expressed concerns about unusual atmospheric measurements and disturbing reports from multiple observatories. Advisor requested British cooperation in monitoring project. Ambassador recommended accepting the request, suggested forming international scientific committee to investigate. Foreign Secretary's reply, dated April 2nd, 1815, approved the cooperation, but ordered it kept quiet. Quote, "No public announcements, official channels only. Avoid civilian alarm." 8 days later, Tambora erupted. The scientific committee was formed, secretly. Members from Britain, Austria, France, Russia, Prussia. They met 4 times in 1815. Location, Vienna. Dates documented in diplomatic correspondence. Then all records of the committee stop. No final report, no conclusions, no recommendations, just silence. The committee vanished from official records.
But here's what we know they had access to. Weather data from 56 observatories across Europe and Asia. Atmospheric measurements, temperature records, barometric pressure, sky observations, naval reports from multiple countries, ship logs, ocean temperature, atmospheric phenomena, medical data, disease patterns, death rates, agricultural reports, crop yields, livestock losses. They had everything. Complete picture. Then they disappeared it. Why would International Scientific Committee collect all this data, then hide it? What did they find? And who ordered them to bury it? The documents I just described, they exist. You can request them through British Library Archives. Reference number ADMS 43218. Request takes 6 weeks. You'll receive heavily redacted copies. Black bars everywhere. Security concerns, they say. For 200-year-old weather data, what security concerns?
Now let's talk about Tambora itself. Eruption happened April 10, 1815. We know this from Dutch colonial records. Indonesia was Dutch territory. But Dutch East India Company reports from Sumbawa Island, where Tambora is located, went missing after the eruption. Normal company practice, detailed reports every quarter, profit, losses, inventory, local conditions. Reports from 1814 exist. Reports from late 1815 exist. Reports from April through August 1815, eruption period, gone. Dutch National Archive has no explanation, officially listed as lost in transfer. But British East India Company, competing organization, kept copies of Dutch reports. Industrial espionage, common practice. Those copies also disappeared from British archives, same time period. Coincidence? Two competing organizations, separate archives, different countries, same missing documents. Someone really didn't want those reports to exist.
What did Dutch observers see during the eruption that had to be erased? Standard eruption documentation would include date, time, duration, explosion intensity, ashfall, damage assessment. But there's another possibility. What if they documented something else? Something that didn't fit natural volcanic eruption pattern. Something that suggested the eruption wasn't entirely natural. I know how that sounds, but stay with me. Tambora sits on major tectonic boundary, Pacific Ring of Fire, volcanically active region. Eruptions happen regularly, but Tambora was different. Explosive force equivalent to 800 megatons of TNT. Compare that. Largest nuclear weapon ever tested, Soviet Tsar Bomba, 50 megatons. Tambora was 16 times more powerful. Released energy equal to 65,000 Hiroshima bombs. That's not normal volcanic eruption. That's planetary-scale violence. Geologists studied Tambora afterward. Crater measurements, ash analysis, magma composition.
They found something strange. Magma chamber emptied completely.
Normally, volcanoes release 10 to 30% of available magma. Rest stays underground. Tambora released 96%. Nearly total evacuation. Like something triggered full release instead of natural pressure relief. One geologist, Dr. Richard Arculus from Australian National University, published paper in 2008 analyzing Tambora's eruption mechanism. His conclusion? Eruption dynamics suggest anomalous trigger event. Academics speak for something weird happened. He doesn't speculate what. Scientists don't do that. But he documents the evidence. Magma composition shows rapid decompression, faster than normal volcanic process, like sudden pressure release instead of gradual build. He compares it to opening champagne bottle versus slow cork removal. Something made that magma chamber explode all at once. Natural process? Maybe. Or maybe something else. The paper got little attention.
Published in Specialty Geology Journal. Few people read it.
Then Arculus stopped researching Tambora, moved to different projects. I contacted him last year, asked about his Tambora work. He declined to comment, politely but firmly. Said he'd moved on, wasn't interested in revisiting it. Why would a geologist abandon research into one of history's largest eruptions? Unless someone suggested he should. One more piece. Indonesian folklore from Sumbawa Island, collected by anthropologists in 1920s, includes story about Tambora. Locals say something fell from the sky before the mountain exploded. Star that came to Earth. Elders described object streaking across sky, bright, fast, hit the mountain. Then mountain exploded. Anthropologists dismissed it as mythologization, memory creating narrative. Humans need stories to explain disasters, standard interpretation. But what if locals actually saw something? Meteor impact could trigger volcanic eruption, theoretically.
Sudden, massive energy release, structural shock, magma chamber destabilization. It's possible. No direct evidence. But absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence.
And here's the thing. Local stories also mention the ones who came before the star. People who arrived on island months before eruption. Foreigners, different language, stayed briefly, did something near the mountain, then left before it exploded. Elders said these foreigners spoke to the earth. Poetic language. Probably means they studied the volcano. Scientific expedition. But no European scientific expeditions to Sumbawa are documented in 1814 or early 1815. Dutch would have recorded it. British would have known. French would have protested territorial violation. Nobody recorded it. Yet locals remember foreigners at the mountain. Who were they? What were they doing? And how did they know to leave before the eruption? The anthropologist who collected these stories, Dr.
Margaret Wiener, worked for Leiden University, Dutch institution.
Her field notes from the research trip exist in university archives, but the specific sections about Tambora folklore removed. Pages cut out. Physically. Someone took scissors and removed them from her notebooks. Her published paper mentions the folklore briefly, one paragraph, no details. Why sanitize the field notes but publish partial version? Unless someone wanted the information controlled, but not completely erased. Limited disclosure. Damage control. You can still request Wiener's archives. Leiden University Special Collections, reference number BPL 2355. See the removed pages yourself. Literal holes in the notebooks. Someone was very thorough, but not thorough enough, because one copy of the full notes survived. Wiener made duplicate copies. Standard academic practice. Keep backup in case original damaged. She sent copy to colleague at Cambridge University.
Professor James Siegel, expert in Indonesian culture.
Siegel died 1993. His personal papers went to his daughter. She donated them to Cambridge in 2005. Archivists cataloged everything, including Wiener's complete field notes. Complete. Uncut. A researcher found them in 2011. Started photographing the Tambora sections. Security stopped him, confiscated his camera, escorted him out. Archives claimed he violated photography policy. Except, archives allow photography with permission. He had permission. Documentation confirms it. They took his camera anyway, made him delete the photos. That researcher, Dr. Thomas Chen, teaching at Berkeley now, anthropology department. He published article about the incident. Academic freedom violation, censorship concerns. University administration told him to drop it. He refused. They denied his tenure. He left academia. Now he works private sector. Won't talk about Tambora anymore. I tried contacting him.
Email, phone, letter. No response. Man studied Indonesian folklore for 20 years, published dozens of papers, but mentioned Tambora, and he goes silent. What did he see in those field notes? What was so dangerous they had to destroy his career to keep it quiet? The notes are still there, Cambridge Archives, cataloged but restricted. You can request access. They'll deny it. Conservation concerns, they say. 200-year-old weather journals, accessible. Franklin's letters, accessible. Naval logs, accessible. But field notes from 1920s? Too fragile, apparently. Make your own conclusions. Here's what we know for certain. Summer of 1816. Global temperatures dropped. Crops failed. People starved. Caused by volcanic eruption. Officially. But timeline doesn't fit. Cold started before eruption. Atmospheric phenomena began months early. Multiple governments prepared in advance. Weather records disappeared selectively. Scientific committee formed, then erased. Dutch records vanished. Indonesian folklore got censored. Researchers who investigated too deeply got shut down. Too many coincidences. Too much suppression. Too many missing documents. Something else happened in 1815 and 1816. Something beyond natural disaster. Something that required coordinated international cover-up lasting 2 centuries. And whatever it was, they're still hiding it, still protecting it, still removing evidence. The question isn't whether something happened. The question is, what? What could be so dangerous that governments would hide it for 200 years? What truth about 1816 requires permanent suppression? And here's the terrifying part. The conditions that caused it, whatever they really were, could happen again, are happening again. Climate instability, unusual atmospheric phenomena, governments acting strangely, information getting controlled. Sound familiar? Maybe history isn't just repeating. Maybe it never stopped. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because there's something else, something physical, something that survived all the purges and erasures, an object, found in ice core sample from Greenland, dated to 1815. Object that shouldn't exist, made from material that wasn't manufactured until 1943, and it was buried in ice 128 years earlier. 1997, Greenland Ice Sheet Project 2, GISP-2 for short. International team, American-led. Drilling ice cores from summit of Greenland ice cap. Purpose? Climate history. Ice preserves atmospheric record, layer by layer, year by year, going back millennia. They drilled down 10,000 feet, reached ice from 110,000 years ago. Standard procedure. Extract core, catalog it,
store it, ship sections to labs worldwide for analysis. Core sample number 4,213. Depth 683 feet.
Date range, approximately 1814 to 1816.
Perfect. Exactly the period we're interested in. Lab technician at University of Copenhagen received the sample in April 1998. Dr. Henrik Clausen, ice core specialist, 20 years experience. He began standard analysis, visual inspection first. Ice from volcanic periods looks different. Contains ash particles, sulfate deposits, visible layers, dark bands. Clausen expected to see Tambora signature, large dark band, heavy particulate load. He found it, but he found something else. Small object embedded in the ice. Depth corresponding to spring 1815. Metallic, cylindrical, approximately 3 inches long, half-inch diameter. Clausen thought it was contamination at first, drill bit fragment, metal shaving from equipment, common problem, metal tools. Ice is hard, pieces break off. But object was perfectly intact. No damage, no deformation. Smooth surface. And it was sealed inside the ice.
Not on the surface, not at a layer boundary. Deep inside. Contamination sits at layer interfaces, where air exposure occurs during drilling. This was buried, completely enclosed, no air pockets. Ice around it showed no fractures, no drill damage, no insertion point. Object had been there when the ice formed. 1815. Clausen photographed it, documented position, began extraction process. Careful, melting ice slowly, temperature controlled, preserving object integrity. Took 48 hours. Object emerged, room temperature. Clausen held it, cold, dense, heavier than appearance suggested, maybe 4 ounces. Surface smooth, machined, precise tolerances. One end threaded, internal threads, like screw mechanism. Other end sealed, flat, tiny holes. Pattern, 6 holes, each 1 millimeter diameter, arranged hexagonally. Clausen is scientist, trained observer, seen thousands of ice core samples, analyzed medieval artifacts, Viking metal, Roman coins, natural objects, meteorites. This was none of those things. This was manufactured. Recently manufactured. Modern manufacturing. He knew immediately. Decades of experience. You develop eye for these things. Precision machining didn't exist in 1815. Tolerances this tight require computer-controlled equipment, laser measurement, modern metallurgy. But ice doesn't lie. Object was in ice from 1815. Contradiction. Physical impossibility. Unless either the ice dating was wrong, unlikely, multiple verification methods confirm it, or the object was from 1815, impossible, technology didn't exist, or something else, something that breaks everything we think we know. Clausen ran metallurgical analysis, spectroscopy first, identify composition. Results came back. Titanium alloy, 64% titanium, 24% aluminum, 11% vanadium, 1% trace elements. Specific alloy designation TI6AL4V. Industry standard, aerospace grade. Incredibly common today. First manufactured 1954. Kroll process. Commercial titanium production. Didn't exist before World War II. Titanium itself, pure form,
first isolated 1891. Alloying process for this specific mixture developed 1953. No way this object came from 1815. No possible way. But ice core dating showed 1815. Multiple verification. Annual layer counting. Visible layers like tree rings. Oxygen isotope ratios. Temperature proxy. Volcanic markers. Tambora signature present in same layer. Radioactive isotopes. Decay rates confirm age. 4 independent methods. All agree. Ice from 1815. Object inside ice from 1815. Object made from material that didn't exist until 1954. Clausen documented everything. Photographs, measurements, analysis results, chain of custody, prepared report for project leadership. Never submitted it.
2 weeks after finding the object, May 19th, 98, Clausen received visit. 2 men. Showed credentials. Danish Security and Intelligence Service, DDIS. Polite, professional. Asked about the object. How did they know about it? Clausen hadn't published. Hadn't told anyone outside the lab. They knew anyway. Told him the object was classified, national security matter. Required immediate transfer to government facility. Clausen refused. Scientific sample, academic freedom, international project. They insisted. He demanded legal authorization, court order, official paperwork. They said paperwork was being processed. Meanwhile, for his safety and the project's reputation, he should surrender the object voluntarily. Clausen said no. They left. Next morning, Clausen arrived at lab. Object was gone. Lab had been entered during night. No forced entry. No alarm triggered. Security cameras showed nothing. Footage corrupted. Just gone. Clausen reported the theft. Filed police complaint. Contacted project supervisors. Demanded investigation. Investigation lasted 3 days. Conclusion? No theft occurred. No evidence of break-in. Clausen must have misplaced the object. These things happen. Unfortunate, but not criminal. He showed them photographs, documentation, analysis results. They said photographs could be anything. Documentation proves nothing without physical object. Analysis results might be fabricated. Were they calling him a liar? No, of course not. Distinguished researcher, excellent reputation. But without the object, no case. Clausen pushed harder, went to media, contacted colleagues internationally, wrote detailed account. University of Copenhagen asked him to stop. Bad publicity, damaging to institution's reputation, making wild claims without evidence. He refused. They suspended him, pending psychiatric evaluation. Psychiatric evaluation. Man worked there 18 years, published 60 papers, impeccable record. Now suddenly unstable, needs mental health assessment. He fought it. Lawyers, appeals, academic freedom organizations. Lost. Suspended turned to early retirement. Forced. Age 53. Clausen left academia, moved to small town in northern Denmark, Faaborg, population 7,000. Stopped talking about the object, stopped publishing, disappeared from scientific community. I found him last year, still alive, 79 years old, lives alone, keeps to himself. We spoke for 3 hours, his memory sharp, details precise. He kept copies, everything, photographs, lab notes, analysis reports. Hidden them before they came for the object. Showed me. Photographs clear, object visible, measurements documented. No question about what he found.
I asked why he never released these publicly. He looked at me, long silence, then said, "Because they told me what would happen if I did. Not to me, to my daughter, my grandchildren. Very specific, very detailed. You understand?" I understood.
They threatened his family. For an object from an ice core, for a piece of metal. What makes that object so dangerous that they destroy a man's career and threaten his family to keep it quiet? He doesn't know. Never got answer. They took it and erased him. But he made measurements, detailed measurements, dimensions, weight, thread specifications. And he recognized something. The threading, internal screw mechanism, precise dimensions, standard NATO specification, M12 times 1.75, metric threading, specific pitch, specific diameter, used in aerospace applications, mounting hardware, sensor housings, instrumentation. This object, whatever it was, used standardized modern threading. From 1954 at earliest, more likely 1970s or 80s, based on precision quality. But buried in ice from 1815, 160 years before it should exist, minimum. This isn't the only object. 1989, Antarctica. Soviet research station, Vostok. Russian team drilling ice cores. Different project, same purpose. Climate history. They found something at depth corresponding to 1815 layer. Fragment. Irregular shape. Approximately 2 inches across. Dark material. Non-metallic. Composite material. Carbon fiber. Epoxy resin. Carbon fiber first developed commercially. 1960s. High-strength composite. Aerospace industry. Military applications. Definitely not from 1815. Russian researchers documented it, photographed it, began analysis. Then, Soviet Union collapsed. 1991, funding dried up, research stopped. Station reduced to minimal staff. Fragment disappeared during transition chaos, or so official story claims. But one researcher, Dr. Yuri Konstantinov, took samples before the fragment vanished. Tiny pieces, microscopic analysis. Published paper in obscure Russian journal, 1993. Anomalous materials in Antarctic ice cores. Paper described findings. Carbon fiber. Modern composite. Wrong time period. No explanation. Journal ceased publication that same year. Financial difficulties, allegedly. Konstantinov's paper exists in exactly 3 library archives worldwide. I've seen it. Translated from Russian. Data is solid. Analysis competent. Conclusions unavoidable. Modern materials in ice from 1815. Konstantinov died 2001. Heart attack. Age 58. Relatively young for heart attack, but not impossible. These things happen. Except, his research notes disappeared after his death. Family never found them. Colleagues didn't have them. University claimed no record. All gone. Same pattern. Find anomalous object. Document it. Object disappears. Career destroyed or researcher dies. Evidence erased. How many other objects? How many other researchers who found things and learned to stay quiet? We'll never know, because silence is survival. But some evidence can't be erased. Chemical signatures. Ice cores preserve atmospheric chemistry, gases, particles, isotopes. Standard analysis includes measuring specific compounds, natural and artificial. One compound,
perchlorate. Chemical formula ClO4, highly oxidizing, used in rocket fuel, explosives, pyrotechnics. Occurs naturally, arid regions, certain minerals, atmospheric formation under specific conditions. But natural perchlorate levels are low, measurable but minimal. Ice cores from 1815 layer show perchlorate spike. Massive spike. Concentrations 500 times normal background. Multiple ice cores. Greenland and Antarctica. Independent samples. Same spike. Same timing. Spring 1815. Published data. Available in scientific literature. Not hidden. Just ignored. Because nobody knows what to make of it. Natural process couldn't produce those levels. Not suddenly. Not globally. Not without corresponding geological event.
Volcanic eruptions produce sulfates, not perchlorates. Different chemistry.
Tambora signature is clear. Sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, standard volcanic compounds. But perchlorate spike precedes Tambora signature. Appears in ice layers from February to March 1815, before the eruption. Where did it come from? One possibility: atmospheric chemical reaction. Unusual conditions, solar radiation, ozone chemistry. Theoretically possible, but never observed before or since. Unique event. Convenient explanation. Unfalsifiable. Can't prove it didn't happen. But modern perchlorate production, industrial scale, comes from specific processes. Electrolysis of chlorides, chemical synthesis, rocket fuel manufacturing. Creates perchlorate with specific isotopic signature, slightly different from natural perchlorate. And ice core perchlorate from 1815 shows industrial signature. Not natural, not volcanic. Manufactured. This data exists, published, peer-reviewed, paper by Dr.
Susan Solomon, MIT atmospheric chemist, 2007. Anomalous perchlorate concentrations in early 19th century ice cores. She documented it, analyzed it, presented data, then concluded, origin remains unclear, further research needed. She never did further research. I contacted her, asked why. She said funding wasn't available for that line of inquiry. Moved to other projects, climate modeling, ozone depletion. Important work. I asked if she'd been discouraged from pursuing perchlorate research. Long pause, then, I wasn't discouraged, but I wasn't encouraged either. You understand? I understand. Institutional pressure. Subtle. Don't investigate this. Focus elsewhere. Better for your career. So she did. But data remains. Industrial perchlorate signature in ice from 1815. Impossible. Unless someone was manufacturing perchlorate in 1815, or unless someone from a later period put it there. Let's talk about what perchlorate does. Rocket fuel oxidizer. Primary use. Solid rocket boosters. Space shuttle. Military missiles. Amateur rocketry. Burns hot. Releases oxygen. Enables combustion in oxygen-poor environments, like upper atmosphere. Perchlorate-based compounds can be dispersed as aerosol. Creates lingering atmospheric effects. Reflects sunlight. Reduces surface temperature. Geoengineering. Climate modification. Deliberate. This is documented science, not speculation. Research programs exist today exploring atmospheric intervention for climate control. Sulfate aerosols. Most common proposal. mimic volcanic eruptions, reflect sunlight, cool planet. But sulfates are inefficient, short-lived, cause acid rain. Perchlorate-based alternatives? More effective, longer-lasting, less acid rain. Still experimental, still theoretical. Or is it? What if it's not theoretical? What if it's been tested? 1815. Global test. Full scale. Entire planet.
See what happens when you inject massive quantities of reflective aerosol into stratosphere? Monitor results, measure cooling, track atmospheric dispersion, document ecological impact. Perfect experiment. Except, it went wrong. Cooling too extreme. Crop failures, famine, disease, mass death. Unintended consequences. So they triggered Tambora. Volcanic eruption, convenient cover story, natural explanation. And they buried the evidence, erased the records, removed the data, silenced the witnesses. But they couldn't remove the chemical signature from the ice, because you can't extract molecules from ice that formed 200 years ago and is buried under miles of glaciers across the planet. So it sits there, waiting for someone to look. And when someone looks, they get shut down. Like Clausen, like Konstantinov, like Solomon. Because the evidence proves it. Geoengineering experiment 1815. Failed. Killed millions. And they've been hiding it ever since.
Now here's where it gets worse. Much worse. If they did it in 1815, they can do it now. They have the technology, they have the infrastructure, they have the precedent. And here's the terrifying part. They might be doing it right now. Atmospheric perchlorate levels today, background measurements, global monitoring stations, normally low, parts per trillion, trace amounts. But since 2015, levels increasing, slowly, gradually, but measurably. Not dramatically, not enough to alarm anyone, just rising. Published data. No atmospheric monitoring. European Environment Agency, available online. Nobody's talking about it, because increase is small, within measurement uncertainty. Could be natural variation, but look at the trend line. Steady increase, year over year, consistent, starting 2015. And look at what else started 2015. Global temperature anomalies, weather pattern disruptions, unusual climate events.
Official explanation: climate change, greenhouse gases, fossil fuels. All true, not disputing that. But what if there's another factor? What if someone's conducting another experiment, smaller scale, more controlled, learning from 1815 mistakes, testing delivery mechanisms, monitoring dispersion, refining the formula, preparing for larger deployment? You think I'm crazy. I understand. But look at the evidence. Missing historical records, suppressed research, threatened scientists, chemical signatures that shouldn't exist, objects from the future buried in the past, pattern of coordinated cover-up lasting 2 centuries, and continuing today. There's more, always more. 2019, whistleblower, former NOAA atmospheric scientist, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, released internal documents, climate monitoring data, atmospheric chemistry measurements. Documents showed deliberate omission of perchlorate data from public reports. Not errors, not oversights, deliberate. Internal memos directing staff to exclude specific measurements from published datasets. Rodriguez included the original data, unredacted, complete. Showed perchlorate spike in 2018. Brief but significant. 100-fold increase over baseline. Duration, 6 weeks. Then back to normal. Like someone turned it on, tested it, turned it off. Rodriguez released documents through WikiLeaks. February 2019. Media ignored it. No coverage, no investigation. Story died within 48 hours. Rodriguez lost her job, violated confidentiality agreement, security clearance revoked, blacklisted from government science positions. She tried going public, interviews, alternative media, independent journalists. Nobody would touch it. Too controversial. No supporting sources. Just her word against NOAA. Then she disappeared. Not dead, not arrested, just gone. Last known location, Mexico City. March 2019. No social media activity since.
No credit card usage, no phone records. Either she went completely off-grid deliberately, or someone made her go off-grid involuntarily. Her documents still exist online, encrypted, distributed, hard to erase completely. But nobody talks about them, nobody references them. Memory hold. I have copies, downloaded them, verified authenticity, checked digital signatures, real documents, real data, real evidence. Atmospheric chemical modification, 2018. Documented and suppressed. Same pattern, different century, same tactics. Let me show you something else they don't want you to see. Patent records. United States Patent Office, public database. Anyone can search. Patent number US 5,357,865. Filed 1991. Granted 1994. Title: Stratospheric Welsbach Seeding for Reduction of Global Warming. Inventor: David Chang, Hughes Aircraft Company. Abstract describes method for reducing global warming by dispersing reflective particles in stratosphere using commercial aircraft. Specific chemicals listed: aluminum oxide, thorium oxide, perchlorate compounds. Detailed methodology, dispersion patterns, particle size requirements, atmospheric residence time. Complete blueprint for geoengineering, for climate modification, for doing exactly what I'm describing. Patent exists, public record, not hidden, just ignored. Because patents are theoretical, just ideas, doesn't mean it's being used. Except Hughes Aircraft became Raytheon, defense contractor, black budget projects, classified programs. What happened to this patent after Raytheon acquisition? Nobody knows. Patent ownership transferred, then went dark. Still valid, still active, but application unknown. Is it being used? Can't prove it. Can't access classified programs. But patent plus atmospheric data plus historical precedent plus ongoing suppression equals what? Coincidence? Or program? There's a facility, Gakona, Alaska, middle of nowhere. HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Official purpose: study ionosphere, radio wave propagation, communications research. Operated by US Air Force, then DARPA, now University of Alaska. Public tours available, educational outreach, transparent operations. Seems innocent, but facility has capability to inject enormous energy into upper atmosphere, heating ionosphere, creating artificial aurora, modifying atmospheric chemistry. Officially, research only, understanding natural phenomena. But technology is dual use. Same equipment that studies atmosphere can modify atmosphere. Same power that creates artificial aurora can alter atmospheric chemistry. Same facility that researches communications can test climate intervention. I'm not making wild claims. This is physics. Capability exists. Question is, how is it being used? HARP became operational 1997.
Perchlorate atmospheric increase started 2015. 18-year gap, testing period, refinement, small-scale trials, then larger deployment. Coincidence? And HARP isn't alone. Similar facilities worldwide, Norway, Russia, China, European Union, all research ionosphere. All have atmospheric modification capability, all officially benign. But capability exists, and history shows it's been used before. 1815. They did it once, failed catastrophically, killed millions. So they hid it, covered it up, erased the evidence, and learned from it. Now they're trying again, more carefully, more controlled, better technology, but same basic approach: atmospheric modification, climate intervention, geoengineering, without consent, without disclosure, without accountability. Because if the public knew, there'd be outrage, demands for transparency, international regulations. Better to just do it quietly, test it, refine it, deploy it, and if something goes wrong again?
Blame climate change, natural variation, solar activity. Never admit what really happened. Same playbook, 200 years later. One more thing before we connect all the dots. 1815, object in ice. Modern manufacturing, titanium alloy. What was it? Clausen's measurements, dimensions, specifications. I showed them to aerospace engineer, friend of mine, works for private space company. He recognized it immediately. Atmospheric sensor housing, telemetry package, measures temperature, pressure, chemical composition. Used in weather balloons, research aircraft, upper atmosphere sampling, modern design, probably 1980s or 90s based on threading specs. Exactly what you'd use to monitor geoengineering experiment. Deploy sensors, measure atmospheric response, track chemical dispersion, collect data. Essential for any large-scale climate intervention program. And one of those sensors ended up in Greenland ice from 1815. How? Only one explanation makes sense. Time. Not time travel, that's ridiculous, but time of deployment. Sensor wasn't from 1815. Sensor was from 1980s or 90s, deployed in modern era. But measuring historical data, how do you measure historical atmospheric conditions? Ice cores. You drill down, extract ice from target period, analyze it. But what if you want real-time data from historical period? What if you need active monitoring? Then you need to put sensors there when it happened. Which means they didn't just study 1815 afterward. They were there, during, monitoring, recording. Which means they knew it would happen because they made it happen. Deployed the sensors first, conducted the experiment, monitored the results, then retrieved the sensors. Except they missed one. Sensor malfunction, lost contact, couldn't locate it. So it stayed there, buried in ice, waiting. Until Clausen found it 182 years later. Physical proof. They were there. They did it. And the sensor housing proves it. Everything connects now.
1814. Pre-eruption atmospheric phenomena, reddish haze, unusual lights, temperature drop. Deployment phase, installing sensors, dispersing initial perchlorate aerosol, testing delivery systems. January through March 1815. Full deployment. Atmospheric injection. Global coverage. Cold intensifies. Governments prepare. Emergency grain purchases. They knew it was coming because they were doing it. April 10th, 1815. Tambora erupts. Triggered? Natural coincidence? Cover story? Doesn't matter. Effect same. Massive ash injection. Natural explanation. Perfect cover. Summer 1816. Global catastrophe. Famine, disease, death. Unintended consequences. Experiment went too far. Cooling exceeded projections. Response? Cover up. Erase records. Remove evidence. Silence witnesses. Blame the volcano. 1990s. Researchers find objects, chemical signatures.
Start asking questions. Suppression intensifies. Careers destroyed. Documents removed. Pattern continues.
2015 onward. New tests, smaller scale, more controlled. Refined methodology, learning from past mistakes, preparing for something bigger. What? What requires this level of preparation, this level of secrecy? What's coming that they need to modify global climate to address? And why can't they tell us? I'll tell you what I think. They know something we don't. Something about Earth's climate. Something catastrophic. Something requiring desperate intervention. Maybe solar cycle change. Maybe magnetic pole shift. Maybe something from deep space. Something that makes geoengineering look like the lesser evil. So they test it, refine it, practice it, using us as experimental subjects, without consent, without warning. Because panic would be worse than the cure. That's what they'd say, if they could speak freely. We're protecting you. You wouldn't understand.
Trust us. But they said that in 1815 too, and killed millions. So forgive me if I don't trust them now. Forgive me if I want transparency, accountability, truth. Because the evidence is there. Physical, chemical, historical. Objects that shouldn't exist. Compounds in wrong time periods. Records systematically erased. Scientists silenced. Whistleblowers disappeared. Patterns spanning 2 centuries. Still active. Still ongoing. Still dangerous. And they're counting on you not paying attention. Not connecting the dots. Not asking questions. Just accepting the official story. Natural disasters. Climate change. Bad luck. Nothing to see here. Move along. But you're still watching. You're still here. Which means you see it too. The cracks in the narrative. The holes in the story. The suppressed evidence. You see it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's why they work so hard to keep it hidden. Because truth is contagious. One person knows, tells another. Who tells another? Pattern spreads, questions multiply, demand for answers grows, and eventually, critical mass. Too many people know, too many asking questions. Can't suppress it anymore. That's what they fear, not the truth itself, but what we do when we know it. So here's what you need to understand. 1815 wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last. Historical records show similar events, smaller scale, different eras.
536 AD, Year of Darkness. Byzantine chronicles describe sun dimmed, crops failed, famine across Europe and Asia. Blamed on volcanic eruption. Krakatoa, maybe, or Ilopango. But ice cores from that period show same perchlorate signature. Smaller, localized, but present. Test run? 1257 AD. Medieval chronicles report year without summer. Unusual cold, failed harvests. Again, volcanic explanation. Mount Samalas in Indonesia. Again, ice cores show perchlorate. Pattern. Every few centuries, major climate event.
Always blamed on volcanoes. Always accompanied by unusual atmospheric phenomena before the eruption. Always followed by document suppression and witness silencing. Testing, refining, improving, building towards something. What? The final deployment, the big one. The intervention they've been preparing for. When? Soon. Atmospheric perchlorate levels increasing. Weather patterns destabilizing. Governments acting strangely. Information control intensifying. All the signs from 1815. Happening now, just slower, more subtle. They learned from their mistakes. This time they're not rushing, not deploying all at once. Gradual, controlled. Boiling the frog slowly so it doesn't jump out. But the temperature's rising anyway, or falling, depending on their goal. And we won't know until it's done. Until we're already locked into whatever outcome they've chosen. Without our consent, without our knowledge, without any say in our own future. That's the real conspiracy.
Not that they're modifying climate, but that they're doing it in secret, taking away our agency, our choice, our right to know what's being done to our own planet, and betting we won't notice until it's too late. But here's something they didn't count on. That object in the ice, the sensor housing, the physical proof, it still exists. Clausen saw it, held it, measured it, photographed it. And before they took it, he did something brilliant. He made a mold. Dental putty, simple, quick, pressing the object into soft material, creating negative impression, complete detail, thread patterns, hole positions, surface texture, everything. Let the putty cure, removed the object, stored the mold separately. They took the object, didn't know about the mold. He still has it. Showed me. Let me photograph it. Full detail visible, measurements possible. We can reproduce the specifications, reverse engineer it, prove its modern manufacturing, prove it was in ice from 1815.
Physical evidence they can't erase. And he's not the only one. Konstantinov, the Russian researcher, Antarctic carbon fiber fragment. Before it disappeared, he gave sample to colleague, grad student working with him, told her to keep it safe, don't tell anyone. She's still alive, still has it. Microscopic sliver, but enough for analysis, enough to prove modern composite in ancient ice. Rodriguez, no A. A whistleblower, disappeared in Mexico, but she's not dead, she's in hiding, and she's still talking. Encrypted communications, secure channels, releasing more data, more evidence. Slow drip. They can't stop it all. Can't catch everyone. Can't erase everything. Truth leaks out. Always does. Eventually. Question is, will enough people listen before it's too late? Before they finish whatever they started? Because here's the final piece. The part that should terrify you. The part I've been building toward. The reason all this matters now,
today, urgently. 3 weeks ago,
January 2026, atmospheric monitoring station in Mauna Loa, Hawaii, detected something. Perchlorate levels. Sudden, massive spike. 2,000 times normal background. Duration, 72 hours. Then back to normal. Exactly like Rodriguez documented in 2018. But bigger. Much bigger. And this time, multiple stations detected it. Hawaii, Alaska, Norway, Antarctica. Global deployment. Not test anymore, real thing. Whatever they've been preparing, they just activated it. Full scale, worldwide, coordinated. And nobody's talking about it. No media coverage, no government announcement, no scientific papers. Just silence. Like it never happened. But the data exists. Monitoring stations recorded it. Numbers don't lie. Something massive was injected into global atmosphere 3 weeks ago. Something with perchlorate signature. Something designed to modify climate. Just like 1815. And we're supposed to pretend it's not happening. Keep living our lives. Trust the authorities. Everything's fine. But it's not fine. It's happening right now. And the only question that matters is, what comes next? What comes next? That's the question keeping me awake. Because I know something you don't know yet. Something that makes everything else look like preparation. 3 weeks ago wasn't just deployment. It was countdown. Let me take you back one more time. 1816. Summer that never came. Crops failed. People starved. But some people didn't starve. European aristocracy, British lords, American plantation owners, Russian nobility. They had food, stores, reserves, almost like they knew to stockpile. Which they did. Estate records from 1815, the ones that survived, show unusual purchases. Lord Pembroke in England bought 17,000 pounds of grain in March 1815, storage capacity for 5 years. His estate manager questioned it. Grain prices were normal, no shortage. Why spend so much? Pembroke's reply, documented in letter preserved at family estate, quote, "Recent intelligence suggests prudent preparation advisable." What intelligence? No public warnings existed. No almanac predictions. No scientific forecasts. Yet he knew. Count Razumovsky in Russia purchased 23,000 pounds of wheat in February 1815, plus salted meat, preserved vegetables, enough for staff of 200 for 3 years. His financial records show meeting with government official in January. 2 weeks later, massive food purchases. He was told. American example. Thomas Jefferson, Monticello Estate. January 1815, ordered triple the normal seed for spring planting, plus emergency grain stores, preserved foods. His farm manager's diary notes confusion. Master insists on excessive preparation, says hard times coming. How does he know? Jefferson had connections, government, scientific circles, international correspondence. Someone told him too. Pattern repeats across elite class. Those with access, those with connections, those in the know. They prepared, quietly, without explanation, while common people stayed ignorant until it was too late. Sound familiar? Because it's happening again. Right now. 2020, COVID pandemic. World locked down. Certain billionaires sold stock right before crash, perfectly timed. Insider trading? Maybe. Illegal?
Technically, but never prosecuted. Because they had information, advanced warning. 2022. Multiple tech billionaires build massive underground bunkers, New Zealand, Montana, remote islands, luxury survival compounds. Years of supplies, independent power, water purification, complete self-sufficiency. Why? Official answer: hedge against societal collapse, insurance policy, wealthy eccentricity. But timing is interesting. Atmospheric perchlorate monitoring showed increases in 2021, before the bunker boom. Correlation: 2023 through 2025, unusual pattern emerged. Agricultural corporations quietly buying farmland. Strategic locations, multiple countries, redundant properties. Bill Gates became largest farmland owner in America. Over 240,000 acres. Why does software billionaire need that much farmland? Official answer: investment diversification, long-term asset. But farmland in strategic climate zones? Locations matching agricultural viability under various climate scenarios? That's not random investment. That's preparation. And it accelerated after 2023. After atmospheric monitoring showed persistent perchlorate elevation. After the tests became regular. After whatever is coming became certain. They know. They're preparing. And they're not telling us. Here's what I found. Insurance industry data, actuarial reports, risk assessments. Major reinsurance companies, Swiss Re, Munich Re, Lloyd's, started adjusting agricultural insurance premiums in 2024, specifically for crop failure. Premiums increased 40%, coverage reduced, exclusions added. Why? Public explanation: climate change uncertainty, increased weather volatility, standard risk adjustment. But internal documents tell different story. Leaked memo from Munich Re Risk Assessment Division, dated August 2024. Quote, atmospheric intervention scenarios under classified governmental programs suggest significant agricultural disruption probability within 24 to 36-month time frame. Recommend reducing exposure accordingly. Read that again. Atmospheric intervention scenarios under classified governmental programs. They know. Insurance companies know about the programs, about the intervention, about what's coming. And they're protecting their profits while everyone else stays blind. That memo leaked through Industry Insider, posted on Insurance Professional Forum, stayed up 6 hours before being removed, but people downloaded it, shared it, archived it. I have copy, verified authenticity, original metadata intact. Digital signature confirms origin, real document, real admission. Classified government programs exist. Atmospheric intervention is real. Agricultural disruption is expected. And insurance companies are preparing while keeping clients ignorant. Because informed clients wouldn't buy insurance. They'd demand answers. There's more. Seed Vault. Svalbard Global Seed Vault, Norway, Arctic Circle. Built 2008. Purpose: preserve crop genetic diversity, backup against agricultural catastrophe. Noble goal, important work. But deposits into the vault increased dramatically starting 2023. Normal years, few hundred new seed samples annually. 2023, over 15,000 new deposits. 2024, 23,000. 2025, 31,000. Accelerating, urgent, like deadline approaching. Who's depositing? Government agricultural agencies, research institutions, corporate seed companies, all acting simultaneously, all increasing urgency. Why now? Official answer: proactive conservation, climate change concerns, responsible stewardship. But timing aligns with atmospheric intervention program activation. They're preserving seeds before the experiment, before they modify global climate, before they risk destroying current agricultural systems. Backup plan, insurance policy, hedge against catastrophic failure. Just like 1815. Except this time they're smarter, more prepared, which means they're also planning something bigger. January 2026, 3 weeks ago. Global perchlorate spike. I told you that already. What I didn't tell you, it's not stopping.
Monitoring data from last 72 hours shows sustained elevation. Not spike anymore. Plateau. Like they turned it on and left it on. Continuous injection. Ongoing modification. Active intervention. Right now, while you're watching this, atmosphere is being altered, and nobody's saying anything. Mainstream media, silent. Government agencies, no comment. Scientific institutions, business as usual. Complete information blackout. But independent monitoring continues. Amateur weather stations, university research projects, private atmospheric chemistry labs. Data is there for anyone who looks. Perchlorate levels elevated globally. Sulfate compounds increasing. Atmospheric albedo changing. Measurable, verifiable, happening. And next week, it'll be gone from the records. Scrubbed, adjusted, normalized. Measurement error, calibration issue, sensor malfunction. Standard excuses. Same tactics as 1815. Different century, same cover-up.
Now let me tell you something that will make this personal.
Weather patterns last 2 weeks. Notice anything strange? Temperature fluctuations, 10 to 15 degrees day to day. No gradual change, just sudden jumps. Barometric pressure instability, massive swings. Storms form from nothing. Clear skies appear suddenly. Exactly what Heinrich Olbers documented in 1815. Atmospheric chaos. System destabilization. Early stages of whatever they're doing. And it's going to get worse. Much worse. Because we're only at the beginning. 1815 took 6 months from initial deployment to full catastrophe. We're 3 weeks in. 5 months left. If the timeline holds. If they don't accelerate. If they maintain control. But what if they lose control? What if it goes wrong again? What if killing millions in 1816 taught them nothing about humility? What if they're doing it anyway, because alternative seems worse? I need to tell you about Document 17. Classified file, leaked, 2025. Posted on secure drop site. Authenticated by multiple sources. Originated from Department of Energy, Atmospheric Research Division. Stamped Top Secret. Title: Stratospheric Aerosol Injection Program. Phase 3 Implementation. 27 pages, most redacted. But enough visible to understand scope. Program exists. Multi-phase. International cooperation. Ongoing since at least 1997. Phase 1. Research and development. Testing delivery mechanisms. Small-scale trials. Phase 2. Regional deployments. Monitoring effects. Refining methodology. Phase 3. Global implementation. Full-scale modification. Sustained intervention. We're in Phase 3 now. Document includes timeline, heavily redacted but fragments visible. Phase 3 activation, Q1 2026. That's now, this month.
Expected atmospheric response. Reduction in surface temperature 0.5 to 1.2 degrees Celsius within 6 months. They're trying to cool the planet, deliberately, rapidly. Agricultural impact projections. Moderate to severe crop yield reduction. Mitigation strategies under separate classification. They know it'll damage agriculture. They're planning for it, and keeping it secret. Public disclosure, not recommended. Maintain plausible deniability via natural climate variation attribution. They're not going to tell us. Ever. Just do it. Blame natural causes. Deny everything. Document 17 appeared online November 2025. Posted to WikiLeaks and multiple backup sites. Within 48 hours, every copy removed. Sites taken down. Mirrors deleted. Archive captures blocked. But not before thousands downloaded it. I have copy. Original PDF with metadata. Timestamp. Digital signature. Can't share it here.
This video will be removed immediately, but it exists. In distributed networks, encrypted storage, resilient archives. You want proof? Search for DOESAI Phase 3. Use Tor browser. Check dark web archives. It's there, if you look, if you're willing to see. So why are they doing this? What threat justifies secret global climate modification? What's so dangerous they won't risk public debate? I have theory, not proof, but theory built on evidence fragments. Solar cycle. Sun's activity follows patterns. 11-year cycle. Longer cycles embedded within. We're entering period of decreased solar activity. Grand solar minimum. Happened before. Maunder minimum, 1645 to 1715, coincided with Little Ice Age. Next minimum predicted by solar physicists starts 2025, peaks 2035, lasts 50 to 70 years. Reduced solar output, decreased warmth, global cooling. But we're also experiencing climate change, global warming. Greenhouse gases, two opposing forces, natural cooling versus human-caused warming. Which wins? Nobody knows. Models diverge, predictions conflict, uncertainty massive. But worst-case scenario, natural cooling dominates, overcorrects, triggers ice age conditions despite greenhouse gases. That would be catastrophic. Agriculture collapses, growing seasons shrink, crop zones shift rapidly, famine, migration, war, billions at risk. So maybe they're trying to prevent that, using artificial warming, greenhouse gas retention, atmospheric modification, fighting natural cooling with artificial warming. Geoengineering as emergency brake against ice age. That would explain secrecy. Panic would be worse than cure. That would explain preparation. Elite know what's coming. Building bunkers, buying farmland, storing seeds. That would explain urgency. Window closing. Must act now before cooling accelerates. Noble goal, terrible methods. And maybe completely wrong. Because what if their models are wrong? What if cooling doesn't happen, or happens slower than predicted? Then their intervention causes warming on top of existing warming. Runaway greenhouse effect.
catastrophic heating instead of cooling. Or, what if cooling does happen, but their intervention disrupts it incorrectly, creates instability, weather chaos, system collapse, like 1816? They tried to cool the planet, succeeded too well, killed millions. Now they're trying to warm the planet. What if they succeed too well, kill billions? Here's what keeps me up at night. They're playing God with planetary climate, using technology they barely understand, based on models that might be wrong, without consulting anyone, without democratic process, without consent of 7 billion people whose lives they're risking. And if it goes wrong, they'll never admit it, never take responsibility, never face consequences. Just cover it up, like always. Erase evidence, silence witnesses.
Rewrite history. Same playbook, same tactics, same arrogance. Except this time the stakes are higher. Not millions at risk, billions. Entire civilization. And they think they have the right to make this choice for all of us, because they know better, they're smarter, they're protecting us. Benevolent tyranny, for our own good, without asking if we want their protection. That's the real crime. Not the geoengineering itself, but the secrecy, the lies, the theft of our agency. Taking away our right to know, our right to choose, our right to prepare. Leaving us helpless, ignorant, vulnerable. While they and their friends build bunkers and buy farmland. While insurance companies adjust coverage and seed vaults fill up. While those in the know protect themselves and leave everyone else to fate. That's what makes me angry. Not scared. Angry. Because we deserve better. We deserve truth, even if it's terrifying, especially if it's terrifying. Because only then can we make real choices. Real preparations, real solutions. Together, democratically, transparently. Instead of having our future decided by secret committees and classified programs. Let me tell you about someone who tried to stop this. Dr. Sarah Chen, climate scientist, MIT. Published extensively on atmospheric chemistry. 2023, she began noticing anomalies in her research data. Atmospheric measurements not matching climate models. Unexpected chemical signatures. Unaccounted variables. She investigated, quietly, carefully. Found evidence of artificial atmospheric modification, deliberate injection programs, ongoing intervention. She prepared paper, documented findings, included data, named sources, submitted to Nature, top scientific journal, peer review process. Paper rejected. Unusual feedback. Not scientific concerns, political sensitivity. Recommendation: do not pursue publication. She tried other journals, Science, PNAS, Atmospheric Chemistry and Physics. All rejected. Same reasoning. Too controversial. Insufficient proof. Recommend dropping it. She went public. Press conference. Released data online. Called for investigation. Media ignored her. No coverage. Story killed. University asked her to retract statements, damaging institution's reputation, violating grant confidentiality agreements. She refused. They suspended her, pending investigation. Ethics violation, misuse of research funds. She fought back. Lawyers, academic freedom organizations, public advocacy. Lost. Terminated. Grant funding pulled. Research access revoked. Blacklisted from academic positions. She's working retail now. Coffee shop in Cambridge. PhD climate scientist serving lattes.
because she told the truth, because she tried to warn us, because she wouldn't stay silent. I met her last month. We talked for hours. She still has the data, all of it, backed up, distributed, encrypted, waiting for right moment to release it, waiting for enough people to be ready to listen.
Are you ready? Are you listening? Because she's not alone. Dozens of scientists know, hundreds maybe, working in the programs, analyzing the data, seeing the evidence, living with the knowledge. The guilt, the fear, wanting to speak, unable to risk it. Families to feed, careers to protect, lives to maintain. So they stay silent, and the programs continue, and we stay ignorant until it's too late. Unless enough of us demand answers, enough of us ask questions, enough of us refuse to accept the lies. Critical mass, tipping point. They can silence one person, 10 people, 100 people, but not million people, not billion people, not everyone watching this video. So here's what you need to do, right now, today, this moment. Download this video, save it, multiple copies, different devices, cloud storage, physical drives, because it will be removed soon. Maybe hours, maybe days. They're watching. They track this content. They know, and they'll delete it. Like they deleted Rodriguez's documents. Like they deleted Chen's research. Like they deleted 200 years of evidence. But they can't delete what you've downloaded, what you've saved, what you share. Share it. Everywhere. Everyone. Every platform. Email, social media, messaging apps, forums, comment sections. Spread it before it disappears. Tell people what you learned. Use your own words. Make it personal. Don't wait for perfect proof. Don't wait for official confirmation, because it will never come. They will never admit it. You have to decide for yourself. Look at the evidence. Connect the dots. Trust your judgment. And if it makes sense to you, share it. That's how truth spreads. One person tells another, who tells another, who tells another. Exponential growth. Viral. Unstoppable. That's what they fear. Not the truth itself, but truth spreading faster than they can suppress it. Look, I know this sounds crazy. Secret government programs, global climate modification. 200-year cover-up, I know. If someone told me this 5 years ago, I would have laughed. Conspiracy theory nonsense, tinfoil hat territory. But then I saw the evidence. Physical objects from wrong time periods. Chemical signatures that shouldn't exist. Scientists silenced. Documents erased. Patterns repeating across centuries. And I couldn't ignore it anymore. Couldn't pretend it wasn't real. Couldn't unsee what I'd seen. So I'm telling you. Not asking you to believe me blindly. Asking you to look for yourself. Check the sources. Verify the data. Search the archives. It's all there, if you look. And when you see it, when you really see it, you'll understand. This isn't theory. This is reality, happening now, to all of us, whether we know it or not. Final piece. The object in the ice. Clausen's mold. The physical proof. We're having it analyzed. Independent lab, full spectroscopy, manufacturing analysis, dating verification. Results should be ready in 3 weeks. If they're what I expect, if they prove modern manufacturing in ancient ice, we'll release them publicly. Full data, complete documentation, irrefutable evidence. And then they'll have to respond. Deny it, debunk it,
discredit it. But they'll have to acknowledge it, which opens the door for questions, investigation, accountability. Unless they stop us first, pressure the lab, confiscate the mold, discredit the findings, standard tactics. Which is why I'm telling you now, before the results, before they can intervene. So you know what's coming, so you're ready. So when the evidence appears, you recognize it and share it before it disappears. 1815. They modified the climate, failed catastrophically, covered it up. 2026. They're doing it again, right now, as we speak. Will it fail again? I don't know. Maybe they learned. Maybe technology is better. Maybe models are accurate. Maybe they'll succeed, save us from Ice Age.
Prevent catastrophe. Heroes in secret. Or maybe they'll fail. Trigger worse disaster. Kill billions. Villains in hindsight. Either way, we deserve to know, deserve to participate, deserve to consent. Our planet, our climate, our future. Not theirs to experiment with in secret. Ours to decide together. That's what this is about. Not stopping them necessarily, but exposing them, forcing transparency, demanding accountability, making them answer to us, to 7 billion people whose lives they're gambling with. That's justice. That's democracy. That's what's worth fighting for. So, you've watched this far. 72 minutes. You stayed because you sensed truth, felt the wrongness, recognized the pattern. Now you have choice. Close this video, forget about it, go back to normal life. Pretend you didn't see, pretend you don't know. Comfortable, safe, ignorant. Or accept the burden of knowledge, live with the weight of truth, do something about it. Download, save, share. Become part of the solution, part of the resistance against secrecy and lies, part of the movement demanding transparency. Your choice. Nobody can make it for you. But if you choose silence, you're choosing their side. Complicity, acceptance, surrender. And when it all comes crashing down, and it will come crashing down one way or another, you'll know you could have done something, could have warned people, could have demanded answers, could have fought back, but didn't. That's a weight you'll carry forever. So choose carefully, choose consciously, choose now. Here's what I believe. Truth always emerges, eventually. Can't be suppressed forever. Too many cracks, too many leaks, too many people who know. Question is, when? When does it emerge? Before catastrophe or after? While there's still time to act, or when it's too late? That depends on us, on you, on how fast truth spreads, how many people wake up, how loud we demand answers. We can make this happen now, today. Before Phase 3 completes. Before the intervention reaches the point of no return. Before we're locked into whatever future they've chosen for us. We still have time. Not much, but some. Use it. Make noise, ask questions, share evidence. Force them to respond. Force them into the light. Force transparency. That's power. Real power. Not violence, not destruction. Just truth. Relentless, unstoppable, viral truth. Spreading faster than they can contain it. That's how we win. 1816. Year without summer.
Millions died. Nobody knew why. Nobody demanded answers. Nobody held anyone accountable. Because information moved slowly. Communication was limited. Evidence could be hidden. But not anymore. We have internet, instant communication, global networks, distributed storage. Information wants to be free, and we can free it if we choose. 2026. Year they activated Phase 3. Year we found out. Year we fought back. Maybe, if enough of us act.
If enough of us care. If enough of us refuse to accept the lies. This could be the year everything changes. The year secrecy ends. The year we take back our future. Or this could be the year we stayed silent, scrolled past, forgot about it, did nothing, and sealed our fate. Your choice determines which history gets written. Choose wisely. They're watching this video right now. Algorithms flagging it, analysts reviewing it, legal teams preparing takedown. Hours left, maybe minutes, before it's removed, shadow banned, demonetized, before I'm deplatformed, discredited, silenced. Standard procedure. Been through it before, will go through it again. But here's the thing. They can remove the video. Can't remove the truth. Can't remove it from your mind once you've seen it. Can't stop you from sharing it, from telling others, from asking questions. That's what terrifies them. Not one video, not one person, but the idea spreading, the questions multiplying, the movement growing. Until it's too big to stop, too big to ignore, too big to suppress. We're almost there. Just need a few more people, few more shares, few more downloads. You could be the one who tips it over. Your share could reach the person who reaches 1,000 people, who each reach 1,000 more. Exponential, unstoppable. That's how truth wins. Not through force, through multiplication. Be part of it, right now, before this video disappears, before the moment passes, before you forget. Act now. Download, save, share. 3 simple actions. Might change everything. Might save everything. Might be the most important thing you do this year, this decade, this lifetime. Because 1815 is happening again. And this time, we know. This time, we can fight. This time, we can win. If we act together, now. One last thing. To the scientists watching, the ones who know, the ones working in the programs, you can still speak out. You can still leak the documents. You can still choose truth over paycheck, conscience over comfort, history over fear. You know what's happening. You see the data. You understand the risks. And you know it's wrong to hide it. Deep down, you know. So be brave. Be the whistleblower. Be the hero. Future generations will remember who stayed silent and who spoke truth. Choose to be remembered well. To the government officials, the ones making decisions, the ones running the programs, it's not too late. You can stop. You can disclose. You can ask for consent. You can trust the people you're supposed to serve. Trust that democracy can handle hard truths. Trust that transparency is better than secrecy. Trust that we're strong enough to face this together. Give us that chance. Give us the truth.
Give us our future back. And to everyone else, everyone watching, everyone learning, everyone waking up, thank you for staying, for listening, for caring, for being willing to see uncomfortable truth, for being willing to act on it.
You're the reason this matters. You're the reason hope exists. You're the reason we might actually win this. So don't stop now. Don't let this be the end. Let this be the beginning of the movement, of the awakening, of the change. Download this video, share it everywhere, tell everyone before it's deleted, before it's too late, before 1815 happens again, and this time kills us all. Go, now, do it. The future is watching. Make them proud.